They say good fences make good neighbors, but whoever said that never met Karen or owned a dog like Argos. See, this isn't a story about a lawn dispute or a few overgrown hedges. No, this is a story about boundaries, the kind you can't see, but damn well feel when someone stomps across them in designer sandals holding your lemonade. It started with a garden hose. It escalated to brunches, hot tubs, and bolt cutters. And by the time it ended, well, let's just say not all scars are visible. Some are remembered by creatures with sharper instincts than most. And some neighbors. They're not looking for peace. They're begging for a reckoning. There's a moment in every man's life when he realizes the war has already begun, and he missed the opening shots. For Dean Mercer, that moment came on a Thursday morning, coffee in hand, robe untied, when he stepped outside and found Karen Brinks watering his begonias with his hose. Karen didn't flinch, didn't apologize, didn't even look guilty. She just smiled, that slow, sunny, passive-aggressive smile, and said, "You weren't doing it right." Dean blinked. "Karen, this is my backyard." "Oh, relax, Dean, I was helping," she said, like that settled it. "Besides, we all have to do our part to keep the neighborhood pretty." She handed him the hose like she was passing off a microphone, then walked through the gate. His gate without so much as a goodbye. Dean stood there for a full minute, trying to decide whether he'd just hallucinated the whole thing or if his new neighbor was actually insane. The answer came 2 days later, when he found her asleep in his hammock, sipping what was very clearly his lemonade. "You've got the best sun back here," she explained. "You're trespassing." "Oh, Dean," she chuckled, "you're so dramatic." By the third time, when she hosted a brunch on his patio, complete with her friend's quiche and a mimosa pitcher on his grandmother's heirloom table, Dean knew he was in trouble. She waved at him like he was an unexpected guest. "Oh, you're home early. Want a mimosa?" Dean stared at her, jaw tight. "This isn't a brunch venue. This is my yard." Karen just shrugged. "Technically, the HOA doesn't own the airspace over your yard, so I'm not really trespassing." Dean wasn't the type to shout. He didn't go for confrontation. He was a writer, a quiet man, someone who found peace in order and structure. But Karen didn't recognize peace as anything but a challenge. He called the police. They came, took a statement, gave her a warning, and she was back the next day. It escalated. She dipped in his hot tub like it was a public spa. She rearranged his flower beds. She clipped his hedges into the shape of a heart. She said it was for aesthetics. Dean considered his options: lawsuits, too slow, HOA complaints. She was the HOA complaint department fences. She'd climb them, and then fate stepped in, scrolling late. One night he stumbled across an ad: "Need to reclaim your home. Meet Argos, the ultimate personal guardian. Half beast, all heart." The photo was almost unbelievable. A towering canine, eyes like polished brass fur, black as midnight, and built like a bear that bench presses boulders. It wasn't just a dog. It was a presence. Dean called the breeder the next morning. There was a wait list, a vetting process. Argos wasn't for everyone. "Why do you want him?" the breeder asked. Dean didn't hesitate. "Because I'm under siege and I don't want to be polite about it anymore." 3 days later, Argos arrived in a steel-reinforced crate. He was everything the ad promised and more. Gentle with Dean, protective without training, sharp-eyed and eerily calm. For the first time in weeks, Dean breathed easy, until Karen showed up. She stepped into his yard, mid-afternoon, barefoot, holding a glass of wine. "Dean, I was thinking we could plant hydrangeas along this." She stopped. Argos had risen from the porch like a shadow, come alive. His gaze locked on her, still and surgical. Then he growled. Deep, low. The kind of growl that made your heart clench before your brain caught up. Karen froze. "Nice doggy," she whispered. Argos didn't bark. He didn't lunge. He just stepped forward once. Karen screamed. She ran barefoot, wine sloshing, shrieking like she was being chased by the Grim Reaper himself. Dean didn't move. Argos didn't move either. He just sat watching her run, satisfied. Dean knelt beside him, scratching behind the ears. "Good boy." But that night, Something strange gnawed at him. Why had Argos reacted so personally? Not defensively, not generally, specifically, to her. It wasn't just protection. It felt like recognition, and as Argos dozed by the fire, Dean looked at him, unease stirring in his gut. This wasn't just about a yard anymore. Something deeper had just been unleashed. The next week was quiet. Too quiet. Karen didn't come back. Not during the day anyway. No brunches, no unsolicited landscaping projects, no spa visits in Dean's hot tub. For the first time in months, Dean's backyard was exactly what it was meant to be his. But the peace didn't sit right. It didn't feel like surrender. It felt like a storm brewing under the surface. Argos knew it too. He was alert more than usual. Every time Karen's silhouette passed on the sidewalk, even yards away, his hackles rose like a memory he couldn't shake. He'd growl low, deep enough to vibrate the wooden floorboards. Never barking, never moving, just watching. Dean tried to go back to normal writing-reading, fixing that sagging porch beam he'd been meaning to tackle for a year. But part of his mind stayed looped on a question. Why her Argos? Loved the mailman. He tolerated the neighbor's cat. He let the neighborhood kids play tag near the fence and only perked up if someone got too close. But Karen, she ignited something primal, something ancient. Late one night, curiosity won. Dean emailed the breeder, subject. Something strange about Argos. He kept it simple, asking whether the dog had any previous owners or history with confrontation. Something that might explain the unshakable vendetta. The reply came fast. You should call me. Don't want this in writing. Dean's pulse jumped. They spoke the next morning. His real name wasn't Argos, the breeder said. That's what I gave him. His original name was Max. He had a different owner before you abandoned him at a kill shelter. Dean went still. Do you know who? There was a pause. Then a name. Karen Brinkley. A coincidence. Maybe. But Dean already knew it wasn't. She said he was too emotional, the breeder continued. Too reactive. Too much for her lifestyle. Shelter called me because they couldn't handle him. He wouldn't eat, wouldn't move, just sat in the back of the cage staring at the door. Dean's throat tightened. She left him. Didn't even say goodbye. Dean hung up and stared at Argos, who was curled on the floor, gently snoring. That was it. That was the fire in his eyes every time Karen stepped near. Not instinct, not training. Memory. Argos had been thrown away, and Karen hadn't even looked back. It all clicked now. Every growl, every stare, every inch of tension that simmered just beneath his stillness. But Dean wasn't the only one putting things together. Because that night at exactly 2:47 a.m., Argos growled from the base of the stairs. Dean was instantly awake. He flicked on the security feed. There she was, Karen, climbing over the fence again. And this time, she had bolt cutters. Karen froze halfway over the fence. Bolt cutters dangling from one hand, the flashlight clenched in her teeth, slipping just enough to cast a jittery beam across the lawn. And right there in the middle of the yard, lit by the moon and floodlights, was Argos, already standing, already staring. He didn't bark. He didn't growl. He waited. Dean didn't reach for his phone this time. He didn't need to. Karen's foot hit the ground. Argos took a single step forward. Karen froze. I'm just here to get something I dropped, she blurted, her voice quivering. It bounced over the fence last week. I didn't want to. You brought bolt cutters for that. Dean stepped onto the porch, coffee mug in hand, robe flapping around his legs. Karen, you're out of excuses. I know who you are. Her face twisted. What's that supposed to mean? You abandoned him. The words hit like thunder. Her bravado cracked. No, I didn't abandon him. He was difficult. I had a lot going on. A divorce. I couldn't deal with a dog that big, that unpredictable. He waited for you for weeks, refused food, refused to sleep. Do you even remember his name? Karen's lips parted, but no sound came. Her gaze flicked toward Argos. He took another step. Didn't think so, Dean said, voice cold now. You tossed him like trash. Now you're surprised he remembers. Karen's breathing quickened. You trained him to hate me. No, Dean said. You did that all by yourself. That was when she lost it. This is harassment. This is abuse. I'm calling the HOA. I'm pressing charges. You'll lose your house, your precious dog. Go ahead, Dean said, gesturing broadly. Let's bring them in. I've got recordings of every trespass, police reports, animal control clearance, and, oh, did I mention I installed a full motion camera rig with infrared? Her mouth flapped uselessly. And just so you know, he added breaking and entering, criminal trespassing, and attempted vandalism. Carry actual jail time. Karen's confidence evaporated. But then she tried her last move, tears, real or fake. Dean couldn't tell anymore. I just wanted to fix it, she sobbed. I thought if I apologized to him, maybe he'd stop hating me. Dean stared. He doesn't hate you, Karen. He just remembers. A long silence. Argos now, inches away, simply sat. Karen turned, climbed back over the fence without another word. Her hands trembled. Her footing wobbled, but this time she didn't look back. Dean watched from the porch, sipping his coffee. By dawn, a moving truck sat in Karen's driveway. She was gone within 48 hours. No goodbye, no apology. But she left behind something far more valuable, peace and Argos. He lay in the sun, his head on Dean's boot, eyes half closed, but always watching. Not out of fear, out of love and loyalty. And maybe, just maybe, a little victory nap.